Hello, it's Automation Coach, and in this video, we're talking about AI models, which one you should go for, what they mean, and how to change them. I'm not going to talk about specific models because they're always changing. Instead, this video is about getting a understanding about what it even means to have different models and to start to understand how you decide which one you choose. Every few months, a new AI model comes out, and they usually have strange names like this one, ChatGPT 4.0 Mini. Just in the last few months, Meta released Meta Mochivo. OpenAI launched Sora. Google unveiled Gemini 2.0. The models are always changing names. They often have different numbers, just like your phone or Windows operating system, that tend to go up over time. So ChatGPT 4 will become 5, will become 6, and then they have these endings as well: mini, pro, advanced. So the important thing isn't to know exact which model to use, but rather the general understanding behind them and how you go about choosing. So on ChatGPT specifically, when you have the free plan, you will already have access to both something called 4.0, which is what the default will be, and that's a multimodal model, meaning it can use a variety of different inputs, whether that's documents, images, text, searching the web. It can do it all. After, with the free plan, you've done, let's say, 10 to 12 different prompts, it will automatically change you to a different model called the 4.0 Mini. People may say that's a lesser model, but it depends on what you're doing. The way to think about models is like the latest smartphone. The most latest smartphones have more gadgets and gizmos, and then you have more basic smartphones that can do pretty much most tasks reasonably well and that you might be perfectly happy with. Some models might be very specialist and they can do certain things very well, but other things less well. And in this video, we're going to go over some of that. So let's just start with the most basic. In this case, at the time of recording this video on ChatGPT, I'm going to focus on 4.0 Mini. Basic doesn't necessarily mean slow though, quite the opposite. Basic can mean the fastest. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to ask it to write me a story. Write me a story including 3 characters: bear, pig, and sheep. They go to the supermarket and they all eat all the food. The most basic model is often quite fast. And there you go, it's just boshed out a story like that. And we're going to compare that to the most advanced model and how long that takes instead. But that probably took a couple of seconds. So we go to new chat, and I'm going to switch this to the most advanced model, which is called O1. And I'm going to give it the same prompt. And you'll note it thinks first. Oh, took a little bit not longer, but then it wrote me a story. 3-paragraph story, whereas this one has actually given me more, and it's given me speech as well. So the most advanced model here, O1, hasn't given me any dialogue and only 3 paragraphs. What's going on? I thought this is the latest shiny smartphone. Not necessarily. The model you choose depends on the task you want to give. So a basic creative task like this, often the lower models are perfectly fine. And in ChatGPT parlance, the O refers to whether you can give it images, videos, and attachments, and it works with all of it. So for example, here I can say, create an image for this story, and it's done that. And if I go to O1, and I say, create an image for this story, you'll note it hasn't done that because O1 isn't able to create images at this time of recording a video. So what model you go for depends on what you want to do, rather than which is the shiniest and newest. So in ChatGPT, the way that you change model, you've probably spotted I'm doing it already, is you create a new thread, and once you've got the Plus or Pro plan, you can select up here and change the model. For most tasks, you'll see up here, there's one called GPT 4.0. This will be perfectly fine. For very basic tasks, you might go to the mini one, which is slightly faster and has lesser limits. For very complex tasks that require computation, you might then go for O1, and we're going to look at some examples where O1 is brilliant and 4.0 Mini falls over. Let's do that now. So with O1, I'm going to give it something to calculate. I'm asking a complex question. I'm looking to buy a house in California. It costs $600,000 and I'm getting a 4.3% interest mortgage on a repayment plan for 25 years. Okay, so I'm buying a house. I've got a 10% deposit. But I'm still unsure. Instead, I'm also considering whether to keep the deposit and instead invest it in stocks, which are earning 7%, and just keep renting. But rents increase too per year. What should I do? Give me a plan and graphs showing over the next 25 years, which might be a better option. I'm actually just going to get rid of graphs. Give me a plan showing over the next 25 years which might be a better option. So let's go. This is the kind of question that O1, which you can see here, is called a reasoning model. And there's one called O1 mini, which similar to 4.0 mini is just slightly faster, less complex model, but still generally does the same thing. And it hasn't replied yet. It's been quite a while. And instead, it's doing this thing which it calls thinking. So behind the scenes, if we open this up, we can see what it's doing. And each time it's doing it, it's actually reflecting on what it's done so far before giving you an answer. So if I close this, at the top here, you can see it thought about it for 24 seconds before giving us a reply, compared to these kind of story prompts where it just gives it to us instantly. So you can see here, O1 model, it's done some key assumptions. It's looked at the scenarios one by one. It's calculated it. Let's see if it's got scenario 2. So it's done all these calculations and then it's giving us an end result. If I gave that same question to ChatGPT 4.0, rather than thinking through, evaluating its answers, it just dives straight in with calculations. So here you can see it writing code in Python to calculate all of the answers. And it's just, as soon as it finishes the calculation, it will just give it to me. So 4.0 has done calculations and then just given it to me as a table without much of this kind of detailed step-by-step reasoning that O1 gets to. Now, how do you change models mid-conversation? So for example, say here, okay, great, it's done all the big conversation, but I just want to do a follow-up question. So you can switch model mid-conversation in ChatGPT, and then I can say, summarize this in 100 words. Because I don't need a big model to do a very simple summary task. You might be asking, but Tom, what's the point in switching all these models? Well, depending on which service you're using, there are limits. So for example, O1 at the time of recording this video, you only get a set number of uses per week. O1 mini, you get something like 50 per day. 4.0 is almost unlimited in terms of how much you can use. So you might want to switch models to avoid yourself from hitting those limits. The other reason you want to change the models is because these advanced models, as we already had a look, can be limited. So for example, here you can see with O1 turned on, currently I can't search the web. So if I wanted to search the web to add to this conversation, you have to switch to a model that does have these features. However, bear in mind that once you switch to a model that has a feature that the other model does not have, you cannot switch back. So at present, if I go to 4.0, I press search web and I say, search the web for articles that talk about this type of problem. Great, it's done that. Now let's say I want to go, oh, actually I want to calculate something. Go back to O1. You can't go back. So I hope this video helps get a general understanding about what the different models mean and how actually the newest model isn't necessarily the best model for your task, and that it's good just to explore the different models and see how they compare so that you can choose and learn which model is best for your day-to-day work. In most cases, it is going to be the general model that is probably the default set by ChatGPT or other providers. In this case, GPT 4.0. This will eventually increase to 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, and I imagine in the future, there will just be one model that can choose based on your prompt which model to go for. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like for more.